Well, the truth is not out there, the truth is in here. This is the X-Files Agent Mulder 1/6 scale collectible figure by Threezero. I was a little unsure about getting this one, but yeah, he's arrived. I'm going to do a review, so let's roll the video. Okay, so it's safe to say that Threezero have a middling track record. I quite liked their One Punch Man, but I don't think that was a very hard figure to do. The clothing needed to be just a loose yellow uniform with a white cape and two bald heads basically, and they just needed anime eyes which were printed on. So it wasn't too hard a figure. And then I saw the Ghost in the Shell Major Kusanagi figure by Threezero, and to say they didn't do so well with that figure would be an understatement. The paint application on the supposedly Scarlett Johansson head just falls so flat. So when this guy come through, I was a little bit nervous. First off, let's take a look at the box. Now, it's a very basic box. As you can see on the top left-hand corner, we've got the big blue X. We've got Agent Mulder 1/6 scale collectible, and we've got a deluxe version sticker that's been stuck on there. If we turn it to the side, again, we've got the same logo there. We've got Agent Mulder, we've got the X-Files logo and the Threezero logo at the back. Same again on the back there. Same again on the side there. Again, the X-Files with the X. And then on the bottom, we get all of that, and that's actually the people who did it, so they weren't too big about throwing the credits of the people on here. Packaging wise, it's very basic. It's a cardboard box with the X-Files logo in the top left hand corner. It's I'd like to say it's a bit more grown up, it's a bit more subtle. I think there's probably a little more they could have done. You know, I don't mind the sort of very subtle boxes. I remember the Captain of the Octopus came in nothing but a black box. There was no explanation on the front about what it was, so it was quite a nice surprise to open that and find out exactly what was inside. So I don't mind that too much. I do think they could have gone a little bit more with a bit of the fanfare. They could have at least had a window you could pull open and have a look at the figure inside, but they do the same with the One Punch Man. People keep saying, oh well, you know, they don't cost as much as Hot Toys. Well, they nearly do. They're not super cheap figures. These are adult collectibles, and I think, you know, just a little bit more love, care and attention would actually go a long way to helping Threezero in the community. And here he is straight out of the packet. I haven't done anything to him yet, and that's exactly what you get out of the box. You get a few little accessories with him, including an FBI badge and everything like that. So I'm just going to get him posed up, and then we're going to see where we are then. Okay, and this is him straight out of the box. I managed to get him into a little bit of a pose with the flashlight and the gun. Quite iconic for the X-Files. So yeah, I have a few niggles with this figure. Partly the head sculpt, partly the suit, partly the accessories. Not all one thing is, you know, the defining factor in this. There are some nice parts of this figure as well, so we'll get into those first of all. But my initial thoughts are it's okay. It's not too bad, but it's not blowing me away yet. Not in the way some figures do when you open them up and you think, wow, now this is a luxury item. Okay, first off the bat, if you hear any sort of industrial drilling or a dog barking, that's because my next door neighbours are getting the garage fixed. So I don't really have any control over that, so I apologise if there is any background noise. Yeah, this head sculpt is where I'm going to start. I'm not sure what they were going for with this head sculpt. Part of me thinks they were going for a slightly later in the season's Fox Mulder, maybe even after the 2000s, maybe the most recent season. But I think they realised the error of their ways there, because when they then showed Scully looks like she did back in the 90s, like really young. And you're going to get this really juxtaposition of a really old Fox Mulder with a really young Scully, and I don't think it works. I think with this Fox Mulder they've decided to put a slightly younger paint application on there, or it's just because Threezero aren't very good at head applications. So it ended up looking like a little bit younger anyway. I mean, look at the really flat and disappointing Ghost in the Shell head sculpt they did. The paint applications are a bit naff, and people are just all over the forum saying, can anybody paint this? Can anybody paint this? And it's just rather disappointing. But this one, I think, yeah, they've gone for a slightly middle of the road Fox Mulder, or slightly older Fox Mulder, and it doesn't fully work. Maybe season 10. Yeah, it is a bit of a shame, to be honest, because we all want 90s Fox Mulder, we all want the young guy. And I don't know if it's showing up in here, but because of the blue suit and that blue logo in the background, the shirt looks purple on my screen here. So I don't know if it looks purple to you guys or if it's just showing up normally, but at the moment it looks a little purple. As far as paint applications go, I have seen worse. This isn't a bad paint application. There's some really nice work in there. I'm going to get in there now and we're going to have a really good look at it. As you can see in the head sculpt, the skin texture is pretty nice. You can come up here and you can see that he's got that little mole there on his face that they've actually gone to town to do. And there's some nice spotting and texture paint apps in there. I definitely think they've gone to flatten out the wrinkles a little bit more, because whoever had the photos, I think, tried to do it from a newer photo. And they probably wanted him a little bit younger. So there's a little bit of contrast in, you know, the sort of age of the skin, but it looks like David Duchovny, doesn't it? I think so. It looks right. One of the slight letdowns here is just up here, I'm trying to show it, is there is a bit of a seam on this side. It doesn't show up as much on this side, but there is a little bit of a seam on this side, and it goes down into the neck. And you can just about pick it out if you really want to pick it, but there's definitely a seam there. Maybe it's late in the casting run and they start to misalign at some point, but the actual paint application isn't too bad. They've tried to get some sort of skin textures in there, some flecking. They've managed to, you know, accentuate the mole a little bit so that it shows up, and there's a slight amount of 5 o'clock shadow. It's very subtle, but it is there. So I think they've done not a terrible job on the paint application. It's definitely, I think, better than the Major Kusanagi one. It's okay, but it's definitely not blowing me away. Body wise, I think Threezero have used one of their stock bodies again, which isn't too bad. They kind of have a really good articulated body that they use for several things. They used it with One Punch Man, and they seem to have used it for this guy as well. And it has ratchets in the butterfly shoulder joint, so you can click it forward so that you can get him into this sort of cross-armed pose here. He's also got a double joint in the elbows. He's got a mid-torso bend here. He's got waist swivel, and he's also got thigh swivel. He's got double joint in the knees, and he's also got ball joints on the feet, so you can move those around a little bit as well. It's a fairly good body, actually. Like I said, as you can see, I can get him into the cross-armed flashlight and gun pose. It's a little bit of futzing to get there, and I think with a little bit more of effort that I could get it to look a little bit better than it is now. You know, I'm hankered for time at the moment, so I'm just sort of trying to get him into this pose as best I could with the time restraints I've got. I think it's a really functional body and it works really well for this figure. Now moving on to the suit. Why they chose to give him a blue shirt, a deep blue shirt as well, I don't know. It's sort of bright blue. In the earlier seasons, Fox Mulder either wore a very, very light blue shirt or a white shirt. And I don't know why they went with that blue there. I saw some photos from the season 10 promos where he is wearing a blue shirt and a tie that looks very similar to the one they've done here with the little bits of striping on it. So I genuinely think that's what they've done. They've used season 10 promos, which is a shame, because I think if they'd have just gone back to 90s Fox Mulder with Scully, this would sell out in an instant. But the head sculpt, I think, put a lot of people off because it looked too old. As we come down to the suit, we can see that it's reasonably okay. I'm going to put the arms down now because we want to have a look at this suit. Sorry, Fox. And as you can see, one of the followers of any 1/6 scale figure in a suit is the shirt collar. If I see a shirt collar on a 1/6 scale figure, it can really put me off buying it, simply because they always look too big and thick and they don't sit right around the neck. Now they've managed to get it so that it does sit very flush around the neck and it looks very good. Still, I think this is a bit too big. It's quite thick and it's a little bit too long. but doesn't ruin the figure completely. But it is a bit of a shame that they weren't able to take it to that next level and shrink that collar down a little bit more. But then we come across and we see the tie, and the tie is pretty nice actually. I think you can get away with that because ties can be very different thicknesses, and in order for that to look right, I think they've had to do it at this size. So I haven't got really any big complaints about the tie. It looks pretty good. He looks very professional in it. You're looking good there, Mulder. But then we come to the suit jacket. The suit jacket is a bit of a bugger for me because when you have a look at it here, you lift this up, there's 2 tiny bits of fabric or cotton or whatever to this button, and I think there's holes you can undo this, but I've tried to do it and I can't seem to do it, and I think I'm just, because there's the flimsiness of the stitching on there, if I try to take that button off, I think it will just pop off instantly. So I think this can be undone, but it's so flimsy and so weak that I really don't know why they didn't either go with the poppers that most people do, or a tiny bit of Velcro. Now maybe the Velcro is a bit too thick and it does ruin the aesthetic of the jacket itself, because I think they've tried to go with as thin as materials as possible, and yeah, the Velcro would have damaged it a little bit in thickness. But those buttons, very hard to take it off, and when you've got the gun holster and you're supposed to put that on his belt, if you rise that jacket up, you can just pull it up, you can then undo the belt and put the holster on there, and I guess that's what I'm going to do, because I'm definitely not going to try and undo that jacket. I think with the thickness of the sleeves, the whole thing together, like I said, I could get him into the slightly cross-armed flashlight and gun pose, which is really good. You can't normally do that with these suits because they tend to be a little bit too thick, and posing people in those sorts of ways tends to be blocked by the thickness of the jacket and the shirt. But this guy seems to be able to pull it off just about, but he can, so they do get a bonus point for that. And then we come down to the trousers, which they've nicely put an ironed pleat in there. Nice and professional, like. I respect that, that's really good. And you got some nice professional shiny shoes there, just made of plastic. And they've even given him socks, which is pretty cool. They didn't have to do that, but they did. And they kind of work to help reinforce the ankle joint a little bit and make it a little tougher so he can stand on his own. That's another point about his figure. While we're on the subject of him standing, this isn't the stand he comes with. He doesn't come with a stand. Threezero are synonymous for not providing stands. Now, you can buy stands on eBay for a few quid. They're not expensive. I still think Threezero should make that effort. I mean, if they design a stand and it's got some decals on it and it had Fox Mulder nameplate on it, I think more people would appreciate that more, because then they have the choice to use it or not. But the fact that Threezero don't include it means you don't have a choice, and that's my slight problem with Threezero, is sometimes you don't have a choice, and they really should step that up a little bit. I don't see why they don't include stands. It's a bit of a flaw on their side. Everybody else does, and I know you're trying to differentiate yourselves from them, but you've got to try and do it in another way, especially for adult collectors who are putting these in shelves and details and stuff. These things start to wear over time. The ankles start to get loose or weak. Just the temperature change in a lot of rooms can mean expanding and contracting of plastic, which means once in a while your figure will fall over. So they should include a stand. I don't know why they don't. Anyway, trousers are really nice. They're a really nice thin material. Like I said, they've managed to get it so that it's nice and thin, but it's not transparent, and that's a really tough thing to do with fabric. But they seem to have found a really nice sort of medium ground there, so I respect them for that. Okay, so now we looked at the head sculpt, we've looked at the figure, and we've also looked at the body a little bit. Let's have a look at them accessories. What do we get in the box other than the figure himself? Well, 2 open hands, left and right. Reasonable paint application. I'd expect this now from most 1/6 scale figures. 2 fisted hands, left and right. And we have gripping hands, left and right. I've got the left hand holding the torch at the moment. And we've got 2 gun holding hands. So because he's got 2 guns as well, you can get him in a John Woo X-Files style pose for the ultimate 90s figure. Fox Mulder jumping around in slow motion with doves flying everywhere with 2 guns, shooting the shit out of bad guys. You can't get more 90s than that, other than Keanu Reeves doing that, or anyone, any other actor doing that. There was a lot of that shit in the 90s, wasn't there? So yeah, the hands, basically they come as standard. There's nothing here that you've never seen before. Partly I would have liked to have seen some sort of special hand that they had sculpted, so he could hold the FBI sort of ID properly, like in a proper pose that you normally would see an FBI agent hold it. As such is, you don't really want to be showing the FBI badge anyway, and I'll show you now, because this is like a little bit of rubbery plastic of some kind, which is a shame. I was hoping they'd maybe get a bit of pleather or something. And then as you come in, there is some nice detail in it, but as we come in, we can see it's got the FBI, got a picture of Fox Mulder, his signature. It looks very screen accurate, to be honest, even there with the warrant. And then the badge is very flat and plain, there's no detail in there. And there's paint bleed all down the sides. You see that? That is really disappointing. They've gone the details to put the seam in there, but then they've just done some sloppy paintwork on that badge, and there's no detail in there either for that badge. And what's even worse is that these two here are just stickers stuck onto it. This is the kind of thing I would expect to see on a £40 figure in the Disney store. I do think they could have stepped this up a little bit and gone a bit further with this, especially if you want Fox Mulder holding the FBI badge. And also I had to actually get the stickers, and I had to press them back down because they were loose. So I had to really press them down to get them fixed because they were starting to curl. And they will curl over time, so no, they fudged the bed on that, I think. Speaking of FBI IDs, I've put his normal one just sitting in his pocket there, and again they put a really nice little detailed clip in there, which is really good, but then it's just on a little piece of plastic, and then again they've just stuck a sticker on top. And as we all know with stickers, they tend to fade over time or they start to peel, and I can feel that that's raised. It's not laminated, no detail in there, it's just a sticker stuck onto a little bit of clear plastic. We're adult collectors, we expect a little bit more than that. We're not kids. Now, considering the FBI warrant and the FBI ID tag both look really quite basic and cheap, they then stepped up and did a pleather holster for his gun. Now, I haven't put this on here yet, like I said before, because I've got to lift the jacket up. I can't take the jacket off, or I can't open it and just put it on. So I've left it off for the time being, but it's quite a nice detailed fastened holster. It's really nice and thin, it's not too thick, it does really well, and I give them props for that. But like I said, when you've got something like this and then they do those FBI ID tags, it feels like they've been cutting corners somewhere. Then he comes with what many 90s people had. This is probably like a Motorola or something, isn't it? Do you remember when I used to have these little plastic bits here on the fascias to buy the little faces? And like everybody, market stalls everywhere were selling these faces. This is nice, this is actually quite detailed. The paint bleed isn't too bad on this one. They've done some really good details all the way around the back. I give him props for that when he's on the phone, because they were on the phone a lot in that on that TV show. It was nice they included that. And he comes with the torch. It's quite good. There's a little plastic case in there, a little transparent, and then in the background they've got some sort of reflective thing in there, so that if you take pictures, maybe it'll flash back at you and get a little bit of light out of it. And they've done it, and it's obviously like designed like the Magnum torches. There's a little fake button there. Doesn't light up, but then I didn't expect it to. Every FBI agent from the X-Files needs a big old torch to shine lights in little dark corners. Then of course we have the two guns. I don't actually know the names of these guns. I think they're Senigs or something like that, I don't know, but they're supposed to be FBI issued firearms. And these are a little bit like, they're really nice in some ways and slightly bad in others. Okay, so really good sculpting, really good work. I mean, they have to up their game a little bit because Hot Toys sort of ruined it for everybody. Couldn't half-arse it. You can pull that back, and if you look inside you can see the bullet, close it down, and then you can pull the clip out, and that's the bullet in there that you see in the top of the gun. Nice paint, nice work, nice sculpting. Really good. Let down by slightly bad weathering. It's not great. You can see that there's some scratches and scuffs there, but they just look like silver paint splattered on there. Those chips are quite good. But down here by the handle, this isn't the worst offender. The worst offender is the little gun. I think someone just wasn't in the mood that day to add the weathering properly, and they just slapped it on. Maybe it's just mine, maybe you've got a better one. It's nice that it works. It's nice you can see the clip and you can remove that. It's really good. This small one, Jesus, look at that. When I turn around and say I can do a better job than that, then you're in trouble, because I should never be able to say that about your work. And then there's a great big one there. Maybe it's just supposed to be that chipped and that weathered, but it just feels a bit slapdash to me. But then you pull the kick back there, and you can see, works really nice. And then we can remove the clip, and again, you can see the bullet in there, which is really good. Like I said, the sculpting and design of these guns isn't a problem. Just the weathering application at the end that lets this down. And then of course you get 2 wrist pegs and an extra clip for the FBI badge, which is a nice touch. Didn't have to include that, so it is good. Okay, and here he is with the trench coat that comes in the deluxe version, not the traditional standard version. And this is probably one of the nicest pieces in the set because it actually is really thin, it's well stitched. I was dreading putting it on, and it was relatively easy to put on, especially over layers of clothing. It would really make it difficult to get on, but it wasn't. It's really nice and thin. It's loose enough that you can still get some decent articulation out of him, and it's got really nice touches, like these pockets actually work. You can put stuff in them if you want. Turn around, see there's actually a nice seam line in the back there. It looks really good, and the collars aren't too big, but it's a very nice addition. Why it's in the deluxe version and they just left it out of the standard version, I don't know. This feels like something that should be included with every Fox Mulder figure. Maybe they could only get a limited run of them, so they decided to do a deluxe and a standard. Maybe it was just to bring the price down a little bit, so at least people could have the Fox Mulder if they didn't really need the coat. I don't know, but I genuinely think that it was a bit difficult for people to order the deluxe version after a while, and I genuinely think that that is something that should have been included. Maybe they could have included a couple of extra accessories that you wouldn't normally find with him. Maybe some, I don't know, some deep dives into the actual TV series to show some bits. Maybe, I don't know, something to do with aliens, or, you know, like anything really. And just included this in all versions, but they didn't, and that baffles me as well. Right, I've waffled on about this guy enough. I do like him. He is a 1/6 scale figure. He was made to a decent standard, but he's not going to blow anybody away. It's a very functional, decent Fox Mulder figure. I can't say any more than that. He is definitely, but no more than a 6.5 out of 10. And you might think that's low, but he's above average, but not by much. And that's partly because of certain details, like the shirt collar isn't great. The head sculpt is a little confused as to who they are trying to portray. Are they trying to portray new Fox Mulder from the recent series, or are they trying to portray old Fox Mulder from the 90s? Don't fully know. They don't even say on the box what season this is from. You know, it would make sense if it said Fox Mulder season 10. Then you'd be like, okay, they're trying to go for a slightly older Fox Mulder. But they thought they could have their cake and eat it and just make him from, you know, from the 90s to now, and it doesn't fully work. Tie's okay. The shirt, and the shirt's a weird color. I would have preferred a white shirt, I think, for him. I do like the jacket. Everything on him is quite thin, which is really good, because I genuinely think if they'd have gone any bulkier, this would have not looked right. So they've really tried to get the thinness of the suit and the shirt and everything down as much as possible. But again, with shirt collars in 1/6 scale, it is very difficult to do that. And they weren't able to rise to the challenge to get that improved. The shoes are functional, they're nice, they're shiny, they're glossy, well painted. There's not a lot of detail in them. There's no details on the soles of the feet. There's just the usual typical Threezero logo and 20th Century Fox logo. There's also no weathering on them, there's no dirt, there's nothing. It's a pretty clean figure. I think maybe that's a good thing, because then you can dirty him up if you so wish. But some people just don't have the time or the ability to be able to weather their figures effectively and to a decent standard. That's fine. But I do think the accessories, sort of, there's good and there's bad. The weathering on the guns is pretty bad. I like the mobile phone. I think that's cool. They managed to get him in a 90s style mobile phone, which again contradicts and confuses, because is this modern Mulder or is this 90s Mulder? Because that phone says it's 90s Mulder, but the head sculpt says he's a little bit older than that. So it is a bit of a shame. I like the torch. I think the torch is pretty cool. The FBI ID tag and the badge, big letdown. The FBI wallet warrant just has sloppy paint work on there, and there's just 2 stickers on a piece of plastic, rubbery plastic, and it's not good. It just looks like something you'd get out of a Barbie doll. That let me down a little bit. And that ID tag that he wears on his shirt thing, it's just a sticker stuck on a piece of clear plastic. I could have done that. You could have done that. I do like the watch. The watch is very detailed. It's very good. There's even like a little parts where you can see where the 12 o'clock is and the 6 o'clock is. You can see where the logo should be. That's really nice. Overall though, it's a 6.5. It's functional, it's good. You can put him in your collection next to a lot of your other figures and he will look good, but he's not going to blow anybody away. Also with no stand, again, it does let this figure down a little bit. Anyway, that's it guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe. He's a 6.5. I'm a 5. And also, it's a darn sight better than the original Sideshow ones they released on there, I think 2004. So, you know, every cloud has a silver lining. They are getting better rather than worse. But yeah, 6.5 out of 10. That's it guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe. And if you could do me a favour now, if you get the fuck out of my cave, I've got to edit all this waffle down.